Sean, I want to ask you two questions. First off, if someone was kind of putting you in a bind and saying, "Hey, give me one thing that UNC needs," if they get one thing out of the portal right now that you can guarantee they will have by the time this process is over, what is that one thing? I got two questions. That's the first one.
Shooting. I mean, they got that with Withers. I think in an ideal scenario, you're getting shooting and a slasher, and I think that's what everybody was hoping for. But I think if they're able to wrangle in one very strong prospect, to go with Withers, you're definitely not giving it a A+ in the portal, but still, when you're bringing back RJ and Armando, that at least starts to put a strong core around them. I think what we're seeing as of right now, as Joel said, there's still time, so there still could be names, but maybe not seeing as strong of a transfer portal as just in general we thought. And UNC moved really quick using Timberlake as an example, but you have so many other schools, big name schools, just right now with Kansas, et cetera. Pretty much everybody's trying to reload and use the portal. So every decent player is going to have extreme competition for that. But I think when you look at the list of names in terms, sure, there's some that jump out at you, and there's some that are gonna whose stats aren't going to jump at you that are going to turn into the Jake Laravias, et cetera, of the world. But I think shooting, they still need that to pair with what they have. And in an ideal world, they have an athletic slasher that can be feared from from behind the 3-point line. But as of right now, if they can get one of those, I'd be happy.
All right, that's one question. Go ahead, Sherrill.
Yeah, I was just gonna add. I forgot. Nick Timberlake. So he again visited UNC a couple of weeks ago. He's also taken an official visit to Kansas, and then he was on an official visit to UConn this past weekend. Some reports are saying that he likely won't take any more visits. So it seems to be Kansas, UNC, or UConn for Timberlake.
I mean,
And no idea what it was, whatever what his announced date might be, Sherrill.
No, I don't think there's been a public
Okay,
announcement of a potential date.
go ahead, Sean.
I was gonna say, I mean, if you're Timberlake, and especially with the scouting video that we shared with on IC a few weeks ago, and you saw a lot of the plays that Towson ran to get him open. I mean, most likely it's 3 to 5 minutes of watching UConn's off-ball
I was
movement
just
and,
that's
and what
that's
and
some
what they
Danny
do.
Hurley
Like,
stuff if I've ever seen it, man.
Hey,
Gosh.
you just go to him and say, "Hey, look at Jordan Hawkins, and here you go." Um,
Yep.
and, again, he's a player. To your point, Sean.
unless he
Uh,
wants out of the Northeast and wants something else, but you showed 2 minutes of that, and that should seal the
right.
deal.
And to your point, Sean, I think people have to realize it is a smaller pool. Even though there's a ton of players, I think you kind of see who the elite schools are focused on, and they're all going after the same player. So, like, at one point, it was interesting because Carolina was like, "Oh, Nick Timberlake will make a great ninth man on a good
Yeah.
roster," and it's like the kid's being recruited by Indiana and Kansas and UCLA and UConn. Like, he's not going somewhere to be the ninth man. So I think that should inform a little bit about what's out there and what UNC is trying to accomplish. But again, there's there's still a lot of time, and I know it doesn't feel like it, but there is still a lot of time. So we'll see what happens. Again, judge them as harshly as you want once all the data is in. Once all the
Father's
data
Day.
is in, yeah.
Father's
If
Day.
you feel like they were awful, once all the data is in, call them awful. I'll be there with you. But I think you have to allow them the time and not judge while the process is happening.
Er,
Even sorry, just another. Even I mean, looking at Kansas, for instance, they've got a jump start on. I mean, they have Armando and RJ returning, so I think at least for myself, we'll need to pay more attention to those two as the cornerstones of what they can piece together versus being one of these teams that is looking for even more
mhm.
to help with next season.
Well, let's continue that discussion since you said that. If you look at a lot of the top 10 in the portal, it's smaller point guard center, smaller point guard
Yeah.
center, smaller point guard center,
Yep.
combo guard center, smaller point guard center, maybe one wing, which is Harrison Ingram, and everybody, obviously everybody's after him. So it was just weird how it worked out for UNC. But to your point, Sean, that's how I've tried to approach it. This is just me editorializing. 100% know if the staff is approaching it this way, but it feels like they are, in that Armando Bacot and RJ Davis are, two, impactful players. They're the stars coming back, and then you build the roster around them. Like I said, it is free agency, so you do whatever you do in the final year of their contract to try to make sure that you can make a run and do something special. So you try to find guys who complement them well, who are skilled, who also can help elevate them as well. To me, that's what they're doing, and I think that's the way to approach it, because other schools are just trying to get the Monstars basically together, like who are the
Yeah,
5 most talented guys in the portal. But Carolina already has 2 really good players on the roster, and they have to fill in around them.
they got to find their Kyle Kuzma. They got to find their Sean Elliott. They got to find their Eric Snow. They got to find those dudes that are obviously not, not all ACC players, but have the ability to deliver all ACC stats on any given night. All right,
Yeah,
Sean,
you would love to have like a super talented player
for
who was
sure.
unselfish, who had a high basketball IQ, who was okay being the number 3 scorer, who played defense. But do those people really exist who are okay
But
with all
they
that?
may also be waiting to see how their NBA fortunes pan out.
Right,
That's the other
right,
thing to consider. A lot of these guys may still be trying to see what kind of feedback they can get from NBA camps. So
right.